All right, we're doing sports tonight. Me and Brett. I have never, Emily Gagnon, for those of you who don't know me. Brett, what is your last name?
Brett Gilbert.
There we go. BG in the house and EG in the house. I have never done this with BG before, so let's make it a memorable one, Brett. Who I apologize for not knowing your last name. We've been working together for like a year now.
Yeah, close to it.
And we write each other a lot of emails.
Well, we text. We don't email. So that's the thing.
In my defense, thank you. That was very sweet of you for letting me off the hook here. We got to get started with the NBA playoffs. Listen, I think it's only appropriate we talk about the Hawks first and foremost. They lost against the Celtics. Yeah, in game one. It was pretty ugly, okay? They were down by like 32, I think. Mm-hmm. And they were able to come back.
They made a run.
Correct. They did go on a run.
It didn't really make the game close, but it was a run.
Yes, but I'll give it to them. They won the third and fourth quarters. Okay, they did win that.
Counts for something.
Yeah. So there was adjustments made. What I take away from it is there were adjustments made at the half. They were so far down, so far behind that they could not come back. However, not giving up, I'm down with that. And so what the team is saying right now, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, they're saying they're taking that second half momentum and bringing it into game two at TD Garden, and that's exactly what they're going to have to do because I think the Celtics have only lost something like 9 games at home this season.
Wow.
So the Hawks, I think, have won something like 17 games on the road this season.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, when you think about it, it doesn't really bode well for the Hawks, but they are going to have to find a way to win a game on the road. So,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you win game 2 and then you're coming back to Atlanta, tied series, it feels different. I don't know if the outcome will be any different, but it'll certainly feel a little bit better for a couple of days.
Yeah, and they couldn't hit anything from 3, okay, from downtown. No. They hit 5 threes. I mean, I was like, what is going on here? Their shots were not falling. They weren't dropping. No. So, after the game, they said, it wasn't a great night for shooting.
I think 3 of their 5 starters shot under 50% and then under like 25% or 20% from 3. Like it was really bad. It was really, really bad.
And not to mention the Celtics were making their threes. But Trae Young, come on, man. So 16 points in game 1. I want to take it back to first round last year against the Heat and mention that he averaged about 15 to 16 points in that series. So right now he's like starting off right where he left off last year, which is not exactly what you want, right? But I do think that it is kind of ironic that the Celtics are defending him just as hard as Miami did last year, and it's like that was the blueprint, and now the Celtics are doing exactly what Miami did to Trae last year. That's why they brought on DeJounte Murray in hopes that if they were in the situation again, that perhaps that would equal things out a little bit. If Trae was being defended that hard, that DJ could take over. He did lead the team in scoring, 24 points, did not hit a single 3. I think he was 0 for 6 from the arc. So,
I mean, that's the thing. If Trae can't go, it almost feels like, it feels like the Hawks go as Trae goes. And you can say that for most NBA teams. If the superstar gets shut down, then the team's probably not going to win, but it's especially true for the Hawks, who don't really have, Fred Capania, who comes on here a lot, his favorite saying is that Trae Young isn't a Batman, he's a Robin, and this team doesn't have another Robin. They don't have someone else that can put the team on their shoulders when Trae's not on or when the defense is shutting him down. So I think that's going to continue to be a problem for them until someone else either steps up or more likely they get someone else in and kind of restructure this offense, which I expect they'll probably try to do in the offseason, especially if they keep Trae. I know that's a whole different conversation, but I don't know, with the limited firepower they have right now, how they can overcome Tatum and Brown and those guys.
And the size. I mean, you could see the size off the board. I mean, it's you don't have to know basketball to be watching that game and be like, wow, there is one team that has some significant size over the other.
Yeah.
But let's get off to a fast start on Tuesday night, guys. 7 o'clock at TD Garden. Let's actually have some urgency to go out there and play. I liked how Murray, after the game, said he felt like they weren't ready in that first half. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah, What are you waiting for?
I liked his honesty. He's like, I just didn't feel like we were ready. All right, man. Well, it showed. It definitely showed that you guys weren't ready. And he said, like, the identity of the team is what you saw in the second half. Okay, sure. But let's get it started pretty early. That's right.
Yeah, I feel like this team, that's another thing they need is a veteran, a guy who's been there before, who has, been into deep playoff runs that can get the team ready to go. I think like somebody like Mike Conley, someone that might not come in and be a top scorer, but someone who has been through this year in and year out and can be that veteran leader in the locker room to get guys up and ready to go. Because I don't know how you're not ready to go for game 1 of the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just need a little extra
kick in the butt.
Yeah, and that's that's what happens. So.
Yeah. What other games did you get to watch this weekend, or what stood out to you?
I mean, I have to mention Sacramento.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was probably the best game of the weekend, I thought.
126 to 123, I think, was the final.
Yeah.
Kings lead 1-0 over the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the Kings because of Kevin Huerter. I'm
right.
a Huerter fan. We covered him here with the Hawks. Super good dude. When he was traded, he didn't tell me this, but I don't think he was the happiest just because he liked Atlanta, right? He had a home here, all the things. And, like, who likes change? And especially when you don't want to leave a team, right?
Yeah.
So that was the best career move that could have ever happened for him because he's
looked
truly
like a different
able
guy
to shine. Yeah. And so, but I will say, like, when they play again in game 2, Steph Curry, I saw he can move up in the all-time playoff scoring list, which is pretty cool. He can go up to number 19 and pass Wilt Chamberlain, which is like a huge name in basketball.
Yeah.
So right now, Curry, you want to take a guess at how many points he scored in his playoff history? I know.
I really wouldn't
That's
even know
hard.
like where to.
Yeah, 3,600. That's where he's at, like on the dot. So he just needs 8 more points to go ahead of Chamberlain for 19th on that list.
Who's first? Do you know?
I don't even know that. In playoff history?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. Usually you'd be the one looking this up for us.
Yeah, I know. I thought you had the list on hand. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you look stupid out there.
I put you on the spot, then you gave it right back to me. I appreciate that, BG. But so that game, that's the series that I think might go to 7, might be really, really exciting.
Yeah.
And they're like right there, basically. I mean, Sacramento's not the Bay Area, but like they're very close to each other. This could start like a very good rivalry. That I'm sure they already have a bit of a rivalry, but this could really start something. So to me, that's the series that I think I'm watching closely, very, very closely.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told me before that game that the Warriors are going to have 2 chances to shoot threes at the end of the game and tie it, I'm like, okay, well, Steph's getting one of them, and they're going to hit one of them. And no, they missed both. Steph had one, and then I can't remember who it was that had the other one, but both of them missed. I was going to ask you before we got into that, which low seed that won their first game do you think is most likely to pull off the upset? You have the Lakers over the Grizzlies because they won game 1. You have the Heat over the Bucks who won game 1, and then technically the Warriors were the lower seed, even though they're both real title contenders with Steph and Clay on that team. But then you also have the Clippers over the Suns who won game 1. Suns are only a 4 seed, but they've been so hot down the stretch. I think a lot of people expected them to win that series. So of the Lakers, Heat, and Clippers, which team do you think might actually be able to pull out an upset in the first round?
So if you just look, if you like don't really pay attention, you would look at the seeding and be like, oh, the Clippers because they're so close, right? It's a 5 seed and a 4 seed. But if you ask me, it's going to be the Lakers.
I figured that's what you'd say.
Yep.
That's why I asked.
Yep, 7 seed hasn't beaten a 2 seed though since 2010 when San Antonio beat Dallas in 6 games.
That's 13 years ago.
So that's what the Lakers are up against.
But
it's kind of weird for the Grizzlies. Like their home court
it's electric.
advantage disappeared against the Lakers.
Yeah,
I mean,
it did.
It truly did. It was a 128 to 112 loss. LeBron James, he has more playoff experience than anyone, or playoff appearances than anyone.
He probably has more playoff
Memphis
games
roster
than the whole roster put together.
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure, but I'm guessing that's probably the case.
And sometimes that doesn't matter, right? Like experience sometimes doesn't matter, but in this case, I'm going to say it does.
When
like,
you're LeBron James, it
absolutely
matters.
does. When you're trying to win a series and you're the lower seed, and when you take game 1 from the, where's not your home, that's impressive. And that gives you momentum and enough momentum to win the series in this situation is very possible. Morant, Ja, he's not 100%. We don't know if he's going to play in game 2.
Yeah.
So yeah. I would think for the Lakers, like, I'm about this life. Like, I'm going in there and I'm trying to take game 2. But I will say, like you mentioned, like the electric atmosphere in Memphis, 35-6 at home.
Yeah.
That the Grizzlies are 35-6 this season in Memphis. Their road record is ugly. It's almost as ugly. It's just a little uglier, I would say, than the Hawks away road record, 16-25. So
that's crazy from a 2 seed.
Right. I am literally looking at game 2 in Memphis as a must-win game.
It feels
for the
like
Grizzlies.
It feels like it, and you might be doing it without Ja. That defense. I'm a Grizzlies fan, so I know this team pretty well. That defense plays really, really well at home. Jaren's home road splits, who is probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year, are crazy. He's so much better at home, and he's really going to have to step up in Game 2, him and Desmond Bane both, if Ja's really not there. And without Steven Adams, who's going to miss the entire postseason with an injury, the Lakers are kind of the worst nightmare for Memphis, matchup-wise, because they have two very good big bodies, in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And other than Jaren Jackson, the Grizzlies really don't have a good answer for that. If Steven Adams was healthy, they would. And we all know Jaren suffers with foul trouble. So if he gets he did a good job game 1, but if we get into the third quarter of this game, halftime, and he's already sitting at 3 or 4 fouls, and I think that's a very likely outcome. That's tough. That's really, really tough, especially without Ja for the Grizzlies to overcome. I don't know if that happens. I don't know how they overcome it, which sucks as a Grizzlies fan to say. But just looking at the X's and O's, it's tough.
It's one of those things, right? There's not much you can do about it. But I do think, like, I'm so far, I think the NBA playoffs have been all right, except for the Hawks.
Other than injuries, yeah.
Let's not. The Hawks have time to redeem, though. They have time to redeem themselves.
Is that you saying you want to move on to the next topic and talk about your boy?
Yes. Always and forever, Stetson Bennett for life.
For those who haven't seen this, there's been several reports from several different outlets, Yardbarker, ESPN, saying that there are NFL executives that say Stetson Bennett will likely go undrafted because teams have off-the-field concerns. What do you think about that?
My silence should say it all. Guys, I've said this for years, and I am not a Stetson Bennett hater. I am a realist. If he gets drafted, more power to him. Like, seriously, that's the greatest story ever. Let's make a movie, a Disney movie. Stetson, I hope you get paid off that movie.
Who would play Stetson Bennett
in
a Disney movie?
I don't even know, but what I'm saying is that's what we should do. But I don't expect him to be drafted. I never thought he would be drafted.
Not even like 6 or 7?
No, but if he's
a winner.
That's great. And he is a winner at the college level, though. Like, yes, the last 2 years, there's not another quarterback that can say that they won 2 national championships.
Nope.
Better yet, back-to-back. No one but Stetson Bennett can say that, okay? And, yes, he has a solid arm. He can pass. I'm not a hater on that either.
He can run a little bit too.
But yes, but let me give you just a couple of numbers that I think tell you the story of why I feel the way I do.
Okay.
5'11". Okay.
Relax.
5'11". I mean, when I interview him, I'm looking at him dead in the eyes. Okay. 5'11".
We've seen short guys have success. Drew Brees is a short guy.
That's the only one you could basically name.
Kyler Murray's okay.
In the most recent history of the NFL. That's the only guy we ever talk of.
Russell. I know he hasn't been good lately. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Obviously, those guys have a lot better pedigree.
5'11", 192.
Put on some weight.
That's a problem in the NFL, a serious problem. And you have to be perfection at the quarterback position if you're going to be playing any kind of meaningful football at 5'11". And you mentioned Drew Brees, and I'm glad you did. When he played, I wish he were here to talk about this. A lot of times he couldn't see over his offensive line. Mm-hmm. He just hoped that whoever it was exactly where they were supposed to be.
They were a lot.
And he had some great receivers, so that worked. And there was chemistry that had to be built, and it took time. And yes, the Saints were very good when Drew Brees was there. And I'm sure they would take him back. Fans would be like, Drew will take you back right now. But I do believe that Stetson Bennett will start his NFL career as an undrafted player, which is not fun at all. Why?
What if he comes here to Atlanta and you get to continue to cover him?
Well, then we have a relationship to continue on with, okay? Like, I mean, I've been covering him for the last 15 years at Georgia. So
Stop.
There hasn't been a Georgia team that I've covered without him. Seriously.
Is that true?
That's 100% true.
Wow.
So I've been covering the Dogs for 6 years now. My first year here in Atlanta was his first year.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, on the sideline, I literally remember he had to be Baker Mayfield when they played Oklahoma. So listen, and when you talk to his teammates, like, they have nothing bad to say about him. And when you talk to the people who know him on the field, they have no issues with him because, like you said at the very beginning of this, he is a winner and he's proven that, right? All of us, we're the ones who are wrong. At least I'm the one who's wrong. I never in a million years thought I would have seen Stetson Bennett lead the Dogs to back-to-back national championships. I'll say it again.
Yeah.
More power to him. But now we're talking about the NFL, and this is very, very, very different. Those boys that will be right in front of him are so big. They're so big, but I will say at Georgia, they've got big offensive linemen.
They do.
They are known for the kind of linemen that they deliver. I mean, they're crazy big. So maybe, to your point, maybe he's the next Drew Brees. I mean, if he is, again,
I'm not ready to say that. I was just playing devil's advocate.
Let's absolutely do it. But I think it's sad because you go from literally the top dog in college ball to the very bottom of the depth chart in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that can't feel good. But if I will say, Stetson doesn't care. Like, he has a chip on his shoulder through and through. You could put him anywhere, put him at the bottom, literally, like exactly like what Georgia did. You can bury him, and he will dig himself out of that hole and compete. And so, you know what? Like, go to the NFL, whether you're drafted or not, and, like, dog it out because you know how to do that.
Yeah.
And we'll see what you do.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to, I'm playing devil's advocate, but I tend to think that he probably will go either very, very, very late, like 7th round, just someone taking a flyer, or undrafted. But what's interesting to me, you brought up his height and everything, but they didn't say he'll go undrafted because of his physical capabilities. That's why he's down there to begin with towards the bottom of the draft board. But they said off the field issues, which I thought was interesting because I know he had the incident, in the offseason down in Texas. Was that Texas?
Yeah, so in Dallas, arrested for public intoxication. That was in January.
But other than
that, he was training for the combine.
Other than that, I've never. You've been closer to the program, closer to all of this, but I've never heard any off the field concerns surrounding him. Have you?
So Georgia does a really good job at being very quiet about a lot of things.
Clearly, because they've had a few things come out. But
and listen, again, he's a winner on the field, and if the NFL has concerns off the field concerns, Stetson did say that throughout this process, he was very upfront at UGA's Pro Day. He said, when teams have come to me, I have tried to be the most honest I can, and that's, like, honesty is the best policy, and I know that sounds corny, but he basically said, like, the NFL already knows everything.
Yeah.
So he feels like he's had to be honest about so many things, and that's where he finds that perhaps he will get, a quote-unquote second chance if this is a concern, because he has been so upfront about issues that they've asked him about. So, props to him for doing that, because obviously, I don't know how the NFL finds out so much. Like, how
they have to have some private investigators on staff.
1,000%.
They have to.
1,000%. They find out things that, like, have been going on for years with programs, and it's like, how did you know this? Nobody else did. But yeah, so if that's the true concern, like, that's the one big one, right? Was when he was getting ready for the combine in Dallas, being arrested, public intoxication. I mean, that's obviously. You don't want to get arrested at any point in your playing days before you go to the NFL, because they are going to ask you about it, and sometimes that'll take over the whole interview, and you won't even be able to talk about, like, what you can offer a team.
Yeah.
They can't bring out their playbook and ask you questions or whatever the case may be. So it would be, like, honestly interesting to sit down with Stetson and be like, hey, like, has that been what's happened? Teams have brought you in and just asked you about your character instead of asking you about what you can do on the field, which is probably awful.
Yeah, no, it probably doesn't feel good, but we'll see what happens here in the next 2 weeks. I'll move on because I know you could talk Stetson Bennett all day. Our boy Jalen Hurts signing an NFL record contract today with the Philadelphia Eagles. 5 years, $255 million. $179 million of that is guaranteed. That's the highest annual average value in NFL history at $51 million a year on average. What are your thoughts on that?
Couple of things. His agent's a woman. Get it, girl. I'm all about that.
Yeah. I saw that. She messaged him on like Instagram
to become
his agent.
Hey, let's link. Like, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
Like a few years later, and now look at this. You're getting paid. So congratulations to her. There aren't many female agents out there, especially not representing superstars. Mm-hmm. And then my next thought, and this has nothing to do with Jalen, I am super happy for him. Given the fact that he had to, he was benched at Alabama.
Yeah.
He watched Tua take over. He was still super, super supportive. And then he had to transfer. He won a national championship and still had to transfer so he could play.
He's got one of the greatest stories out there.
Yeah, so talking like him and Stetson should get together. Disney should.
Oh man, that'd be a great podcast.
Both. Yeah, that's right. But like, why? Again, this is not a comment towards Jalen Hurts because he's deserving. I mean, there's like stat after stat after stat that you could look at and say, okay, like yes, he's deserving this. But how is it that Jalen Hurts? This is an NFL problem, not a Philadelphia Eagles problem or a Hurts problem. How did he get a contract before Lamar Jackson got a contract?
So it's interesting you say that. I'm glad you brought that up because I saw a little note earlier.
No Super Bowl appearance from Lamar Jackson, so that's one thing. But he has an MVP, right?
He does.
So, I mean, that's got to count for something.
So this contract that Hurts just signed is very similar to the offer that Lamar Jackson turned down earlier this year from the Ravens. So the total value of the Hurts deal, $255 million. The one that Lamar turned down, $250 million. So $5 million less. And they were both within $5 million on the guaranteed money as well. So Lamar was offered basically this contract and turned it down because he wants that fully guaranteed deal that we saw Deshaun Watson get. And what I think is interesting, I think this is kind of the NFL saying that Watson deal was a mistake. We don't know what they're doing in Cleveland, but that's not the norm. That's not the precedent we're setting. We are not shifting to fully guaranteed $500 million contracts for quarterbacks. We're going to continue in the direction we've been going in the last 10 years, which is, every few years the money goes up and up and up, but the contracts are basically structured the same. And to me, that's the NFL saying we're going to continue to do it that way. And Lamar might have to eat some humble pie here. I mean, I've kind of been on his side throughout this, but if Jalen Hurts is signing that contract after coming off an incredible season, Super Bowl run, I don't know how Lamar could get any better anywhere from any team.
And he Hurts, again, deserving. He led all NFL quarterbacks last season with 13 rushing touchdowns. His 70 yards and 3 scores in the Super Bowl set a record.
Yeah, I mean, he was great in that Super Bowl. Oh, my gosh.
He's fun to watch. You want to root for the guy. And I'm not saying you don't with Lamar because I think it's the same way. But, yeah, you might be right. I mean, maybe this will change Lamar. And this is not the topic, but maybe it will change Lamar Jackson's mind now that he's seen Hurts do it.
I'm very interested to see the ripples.
It kind of reminds me, and this is like not the same, anywhere near the same amount of money or position, but Julio Jones, his last contract with the Falcons, he didn't hold out. He came to camp and all that, but they got it resolved like right then and there.
Yeah.
That was also his deal. He wanted a fully guaranteed contract. And I think it was like $77 million or something like that. I don't remember that. I mean, people out there do not fault me if that's wrong, but I remember that was the problem with Julio, was that he wanted a guaranteed contract. And I don't, like you said, this is the NFL, like sending a message, blah, blah, blah. But I understand in the NFL, like why the guys want, and I'm sure you do too, why they want fully guaranteed contracts.
Yeah, for sure. I understand both sides.
That's the worst. I mean, that sport, you just don't last. A football, you don't last. You get hurt. It's gruesome. It's not like baseball or even the NBA. I mean, football, your body is just on the line day in and day out, and you're playing injured from like week 3 on. It just is what it is. But these guys still get paid great money to play ball for however long they get to play it for.
Yeah, and now Hurts, he's set up with generational wealth. I mean, his kids won't have to work for a while.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Moving on to our next topic here tonight, Max Fried making his return in San Diego to lead the Braves on a little revenge tour. They lost 3 out of 4 to the Padres when the Padres came here to Atlanta. Now, just about a week later, they're going out to San Diego. Fried's back. It'll just be his second start since that opening day where he looked really good until he pulled his hammy, kind of tweaked it, trying to make a play over at first, and he's been on the IL ever since. So, Braves starting a big series, big early season series on the road, on the West Coast. This one's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, let's see what they got, and hopefully you stay up late to watch it, right? It's like a 9:40 or 9:20 start.
Right.
Fried, listen, the great thing about Fried is this. Like you mentioned, it was a hamstring injury, right? Mm-hmm. So this whole time, he's still been able to throw. He's still been able to use his arms. It's not like he's had limitations when it comes to throwing. So in that aspect, it's great. It's the running. That's what they've had to wait for. They were waiting for him to run and be comfortable running.
Yeah.
So when it comes to pitching, it really shouldn't be the biggest issue, like just being on the bump. But we'll see how he shakes out. I don't think that they brought him back too early, though. I believe that they brought him back because it's still so early in the season.
Yeah, I think they're playing it super cautious. Correct. I have a feeling if this injury had happened late September during a playoff push or in the playoffs, he would have been out there his next scheduled start. Yep. But early in the year, there's no reason to risk it, especially with the way that team's been playing. I mean, I know the Padres took 3 out of 4 here, but the Padres are a great team. Sometimes you're just going to lose. They've won 6 in a row since then. I mean, their lineup 1 through 4 is probably the best in baseball. It's going to be a really, really fun series to watch. And the Braves are probably happy that it's happening right now because their last game against the Padres is April 19th, and Fernando Tatis Jr. comes back on April 20th.
There you go.
So great time to go ahead and get those Padre games out of the way.
I mean, listen, the Braves are 12-4. I don't even believe in talking about baseball records this early.
Yeah.
But that's the truth. They're 12-4, first in the NL East. You're doing what you need to do. Yes, you got destroyed in your first home series of the season.
That was the first home
so
series.
It wasn't the best time.
Yeah.
And the one win you did get was a walk-off. So let's be honest, that could
have gone. And it was the first one.
Way. Yes.
That was the home opener.
Yeah. So yes, absolutely go out there and try because at the end of the season, this could be a matchup, right?
Yeah. This could be an NLDS.
Right.
Or an NLCS.
So this could mean something. This really could. So we'll see. But I don't think the Braves yet have anything to worry about. In a couple months, let's check back in and
No, they look good.
See. But I am excited. And we Braves fans should be excited about having Fried back and seeing what's going on.
Very quickly, Emily, we got about a minute left tonight. What's on your mind?
On my mind today, so UGA's G-Day over the weekend. I was there. Carson Beck was the #1 guy. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. This is his 4th year in the program. Redshirt junior. He has the most experience of the 3 guys on the roster. So right now, just by going off of just how they started him that day, I would say right now it's his job to lose. But Brock Vandegrift, a 5-star guy, a redshirt sophomore, I mean, these two have been in the program forever. He hasn't taken a snap yet in a game. He hasn't done it. But Brett, when he did his interview with me, he talked to me like he had been there before. This was my very first time talking to him. His first time really addressing the media. How old is he? So this would be year 3 for him because he's a redshirt sophomore. So
he's probably 20?
Yeah, 20, 21.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I was so impressed. I mean, seriously, my one worry now, and I'm going to wrap it up, is that will he stay at Georgia or is he going to transfer out?
Wow. That's a good problem to have for the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for Sports Tonight. Monday, we'll go watch the Braves tonight, go watch the Hawks, and see you back here tomorrow.
Bye.